I was checking out the Willie D podcast, Willie D from Ghetto Boys. No, he had Choke No Joke on that particular podcast, and Choke No Joke, he's been with The Rock for like decades. Okay, I'm talking about in the mix of everything. So everything that comes out of his mouth, and when it comes to the industry or The Rock, I believe him, man. I don't think there's ever been a time where Choke has ever been accused of lying or anything like that, right? So, and this guy always keeps it a buck, you know what I mean? Like, for example, you know, he'll be talking about individuals, and you always would be thinking, okay, he's pro Dame Dash, and then he says a bunch of stuff to say no, he's not pro Dame Dash, he's pro Truth. Oh, then he starts talking, he's pro Jay Z. Then all of a sudden now, no, in this particular episode, he was talking about what he believes, what he personally believes split up The Rock, right? And that was Dame Dash trying to mess with Aaliyah, or took Aaliyah from Jay Z, because originally Jay Z and Aaliyah were an item, they were together, and Dame Dash, I guess, that Choke was saying that Dame Dash, took Aaliyah from Jay Z. And Dame Dash also made Choke No Joke also made a couple allegations about Dame Dash hitting on, trying to take Beyonce, you know what I mean, from Jay Z. And, it's like Dame Dash, says that's not the case. He doesn't look at Beyonce that way. Jay Z ain't never gonna open his mouth. So the neutral person, I gotta start believing Choke No Joke, because he has never lied. To my everything he says pretty much is accurate, right? So he has no reason to lie, you know what I mean? And he also alluded to any individual that's making hundreds of millions of dollars in the rap industry, or in the industry period, has to sell their soul to the devil. You know what I mean? And what that means is, like, he has to sell the soul to the industry, to the higher up, to the these individuals that pretty much own everything, own all the radio stations and everything. They have to sell their soul. They have to do sacrifices, right? And you start thinking, right? Every single person that is up there making tons of millions of dollars, there was a sacrifice that was made. And the ones that were making millions of dollars and refused to sacrifice anybody, they're either incarcerated or not alive, or literally, just made out to be made out to seem like they were crazy, so nobody listens to them, right? I remember Dave Chappelle, they tried to put him in a dress. He was like, oh, hell no. They wanted him to do a whole bunch of skits that he was totally against. And he said, nah, I'm done. And he took off. He took off to Africa, but they tried to make it seem like this dude was psychotic. He had a meltdown. He was messed up, all this kind of stuff, right? And, he turned down $50 million. For a man to turn down $50 million, it gotta be some messed up stuff they were asking him to do. So he took off to try to make him look like he was crazy. So Kanye West, his mom, that, the industry is trying to say Kanye West sacrificed his own mom. Jay Z, I believe it was his nephew. It keeps on going, man. When you really start looking into all these things, Kevin Hart, he's making that, hundreds of millions of dollars. And the sacrifice for him was emasculation. You know what I mean? He had to put on a dress and play, roles that he probably never wanted to play. Will Smith, same thing too, making hundreds of millions of dollars. They also made him put on a dress. Tyler Perry, same thing too. LeBron James, same thing too. Put on a dress. Like Larry Johnson back in the days, Grandmama, he put on a dress too. Like when you actually start thinking about all these individuals that started to make tons of money, e- and the sacrifice is emasculation once again. In terms of being a masculine man, and they try to emasculate you, putting on dresses and playing roles that you definitely were not about. A sacrifice, a human sacrifice, a loved one. Michael Jordan, his dad sacrificed his dad, right? So it's just, and the people that don't want to listen, they end up in jail. Or once again, they're not alive no more. DMX, they're trying to say he didn't want to listen. He didn't want to sell his soul. And, and look where he's at. Tupac, same thing. He didn't want to listen. Look where he's at. Biggie, look where he's at. Right? All the, like, you start thinking that, hold on a second, if the industry is this corrupted, and in order for you to get to that status of hundreds upon hundreds of millions, even billions, that you gotta sacrifice your soul, it's kind of sad when you start thinking. It's like, hold on a second here. Nas is my favorite rapper, but I gotta keep it a buck as always, right? Like Nas, he ain't never won Grammys with the greatest albums on the planet. In his late, almost 50s or 40 something or early 50s, they're giving him a Grammy now. They're giving him Grammys right now. You know what I mean? For albums that never even, I guess, numbers wise did much.